Good evening. Tonight, we bring you an in-depth look at one of the most vital assets in Vietnam, the UH-1 Huey helicopter. Across jungles, rice paddies, and fire bases, the Huey has become the backbone of American military operations, delivering troops, supplies, and salvation to wounded soldiers. In this special report, we examine how the Huey operates, the risks it faces, and the men who fly and fight aboard it. The Huey in Vietnam performs multiple roles. It is a troop transport, a supply shuttle, a gunship, and a Medevac platform. The concept is air mobility. Bring soldiers quickly into hot zones, support them from the air, then extract them. Ground forces rely on these flying tools to move across terrain that would otherwise take days to traverse. A typical mission: a flight path of 30 miles through jungle canopy, insertion in a clearing. Troops disembark, the gunships orbit overhead to suppress enemy fire, and, when the job is done, soldiers are lifted out before enemy forces can close. The agility of the Huey allows commanders to shift forces quickly, adapt to changing enemy locations, and maintain pressure. Because Vietnam lacks reliable roads in many areas, the Huey is the only practical way to get ammunition, food, and water to remote outposts. Fire bases perched on hillsides get resupply flights daily. Shells, sandbags, food, fuel, all by the Huey helicopter. Without it, these positions would be isolated. But perhaps the Huey is best known for its Medevac role. The so-called Dustoff missions are lifelines. A wounded man might lie in a dense jungle, under fire, and a Huey will come to fetch him. The faster the pickup, the better the chance of survival. In medical reports, the Huey is credited with saving thousands of lives that would have otherwise been lost due to delay. By early 1969, medical evacuation has matured. In 1969, American Army air ambulances evacuated more patients than any other year of the war. The system has been refined since the Tet Offensive, refining call-in procedures, improving gear, and coordinating gunship escorts better. In total, the Huey fleet has logged tens of millions of flight hours in Vietnam. Nearly 12,000 helicopters have seen action in the conflict, and the Huey models make up a large share of that number. One of the most dangerous positions on board a Huey is the door gunner. The door gunner sits in the open doorway, exposed, with a machine gun. Often an M60 7.62 millimeter machine gun, mounted on a swivel or a bungee mount. Sometimes the weapon is handheld for greater flexibility. Originally, some Hueys weren't armed, and door gunners would improvise with rifles or carbines until dedicated mounts were installed. The gunner often uses a monkey harness, a torso safety harness attached to the aircraft to allow movement but prevent falling out. Because the door is open, the gunner is one of the most exposed crewmen. It has been said that a Huey door gunner's average life expectancy in combat was just minutes. That may be exaggerated, but the danger is very real. A door gunner must scan the ground, identify threats, provide suppressive fire, and coordinate with the pilots and troops below. He helps protect the transport or Medevac ship itself, deter ground fire, and support troops while insertion or extraction is underway. During Medevac missions, door gunners even accompany Dustoff ships, switching to the same frequency and circling the pickup zone to suppress hostile fire before the ambulance Huey descends. Imagine a Huey crew: pilot, co-pilot, crew chief, medic, and door gunner. At first light, they inspect their bird, load fuel, check the weapons and radios, and brief for the day's operations. In a troop lift mission, they fly low, often under 500 feet, hugging ridgelines and valleys to avoid anti-aircraft fire. The Huey must avoid flak, small arms, even RPGs. In mountainous regions, hot temperature and thin air reduce lift performance, forcing them to limit payload. Early models had difficulty hovering fully loaded in high-density altitude zones. Later, newer UH-1H models improved that performance. In Vietnam's Central Highlands, pilots frequently had to operate under marginal conditions. The switch to more powerful models alleviated some of the limitations. During insertion, the Huey may orbit above while troops descend by rope or walk out. Gunships circle overhead, scanning for enemy fire, engaging if needed. The door gunners lay down suppressing fire towards suspected enemy positions. If casualties occur, a Dustoff ship is called. The wounded are stabilized by the medic in the skids or cabin, while the Huey descends to a pickup zone. Door gunners stand ready to return fire as the Medevac hovers or lowers a hoist. Hoist missions are particularly dangerous. They expose helicopters at hover to enemy fire. Often, Medevac Hueys fly single-ship missions, unarmed, relying on escorts or gunship cover. But later, some air ambulance ships mount M60s and carry a gunner as a fifth crew member to provide self-defense. Once on board, the wounded are treated mid-air as best as possible, then flown to a rear hospital or landing zone with medical facilities. The benefits of the Huey helicopter are immense. Rapid mobility, force projection, tactical flexibility. Fire bases and infantry units rely on them. Entire battalions can redeploy in a matter of hours. The Huey changed the geometry of war. Jungles and rivers that once isolated units now yield to aerial highways. Medevac flights dramatically improve survival. Wounded men reach care far faster than in prior wars. Some estimates place total aeronautical evacuations in Vietnam at over 900,000 by the war's end. The Huey system is central to that figure. Yet risks are profound. Helicopters are vulnerable to ground fire, especially when hovering or flying low. Losses are high. Of about 11,846 helicopters that served in Vietnam, over 5,600 were destroyed by enemy fire, mechanical failures, or accidents. Within those losses, door gunners, crew chiefs, and pilots bear heavy casualties. According to Time magazine, between 1961 and 1975, 2,002 U.S. pilots and 2,704 crew members were killed in Vietnam helicopter operations. The attrition of helicopter forces, maintenance pressures, supply issues, and rotation challenges. The pilots operate under constant stress, dealing with enemy fire, weather, mechanical failure, and fatigue. Rescue missions often come at the tightest possible margins. By early 1969, some lessons have been learned. The Huey fleet is being upgraded. The shift to UH-1H models gives more power and lifting capacity even in hot and high conditions. Improvements in radio coordination, call-in procedures, hoist capabilities, and gunship escort protocols help. However, bottlenecks remain. Gunship availability is a limiting factor in helicopter operations. Without sufficient gunships, transport and medevac ships travel more cautiously. Marine helicopter units, for instance, long dependent on Huey gunships to escort transports until Cobras arrived in 1969. As we look to 1970 and beyond, the Huey remains central to Vietnam operations. It is the symbol of a war fought from the air as much as from the ground. Its crews are among the bravest. Pilots, door gunners, medics, maintenance workers risking each flight to serve soldiers below. For the average grunt, the Huey is more than a machine. It's hope, rescue, and strength in a fragile moment. Its blade sound is etched into the memory of every man who sees it sweep overhead. Yet in every mission, the crew knows what lies beneath the rotor: danger, sacrifice, and in many times, loss. Back in Saigon, that's what the Huey is: lifeline and risk, wings in the jungle taking men in and out of battle.